Recently, I was traveling from New Orleans to Covington, and I was visiting some seminarians. And because I was going that way, I got to drive that wonderful bridge, the Causeway, one of the longest bridges in the world. And as a civil engineering major in college, I nerd out a little bit every time I go on it. I remember watching a documentary about the Causeway, and there were several facts about it that I found fascinating. And I remember hearing one that I wanted to check out as I was going on this trip. And I'd heard that the bridge was so long that you get to a certain point in the middle where you can no longer see New Orleans behind you the way I was going, and you couldn't yet see Covington in front of you. Turns out it's true. You can't. You get to a point where you're so far away from both sides that you can't see land anywhere around you. And I couldn't help but feel this eerie feeling come over me. Even though I'm in the 21st century and I have this wonderful device called an iPhone, could call anybody that I needed to help me, could get anything done that I needed, I still felt a little bit weird, not being able to see land, a little bit unsafe, even though it was the middle of the day. So imagine being out in the middle of the sea, in the darkness of night, surrounded by darkness, and not being able to see land anywhere around you. You wouldn't have a cell phone or a radio to call for help if you got into trouble. You were all on your own. And then a star appears that you know well, that you're guided by, that leads you safely home over and over again. Sometimes we can feel that way in life. We're too far out on a certain mission to turn back, but we're not sure how we're going to get where we are going. We feel like we could be lost or afraid. We get worried. What do we do? How do we go on? I think that is the beauty of today's celebration. That we have been given someone that we can turn to. One of the many titles of Mary is Star of the Sea. She is a star of hope for us weary travelers as we go on this narrow road that leads to heaven. And this would have been a particularly powerful image for people who traveled with the help of the stars regularly. Again, without any kind of technology to guide them, they used the stars. And so Mary is for us a star, guiding us to her Son amid the darkness and troubles of the world, guiding us to our heavenly homeland. So how does she do it? How does Mary become a holy light, a star of hope for us? Well, first and foremost, as this feast teaches us, it's through God's grace. The official declaration of Mary being conceived immaculately says just this, that in the first instance of her conception, from the very moment that she came into being, it was by a singular grace and privilege granted by God that she was conceived with no stain of original sin. She is, we say, full of grace. The Lord has done great things for her, and that is why we honor her today. Secondly, we recall what comes from this grace. Because she received and cooperated with God's grace, Mary became and remains for us this holy light, this star of hope, through her saying yes to God. She was filled with God's grace, and because of that, she was able to say yes to God. One writer says that this feast day could be called the Feast of the Immaculate Yes, because in her yes there was no condition, there was no hesitation, there was no, I will say yes as long as this happens, or yes, but not if this. This is what we can take from this great celebration. We can and we must participate in Mary's bringing light and hope into the world. Sure, we don't share that singular grace that Mary had of being conceived without sin, but we've all been recreated through our baptismal graces. And we all continue to receive God's grace every time that we come to the sacraments, every time that we call out to Him in need. And so we can bring light into the world through our yes to God every single day in everything that we do. In everything that God asks of me today, I am called and I'm given the strength to be able to say yes. And so for me, that means taking time to hear confessions. I could have said no to coming. Father probably would have been mad at me, and you might have been mad at me if you were in line, but I could have said no. Celebrating Mass, preparing homilies, counseling people in need, being kind and engaged with people when they stop me and all I have on my mind is this one thing that I want to get done. I have to say yes to that. I have to say yes to being in that moment that God is calling me to be in. And for you, maybe it means being nice to someone that you really don't care for. This isn't being two-faced, it's simply being cordial. This means going to Mass and confession on a regular basis. It means saying yes to time for daily prayer. Saying yes to helping someone in need. Saying yes to God by saying no to gossiping, spreading rumors about people. In all of these little ways, we are saying yes to God every single day, and we, like Mary, become a light to the world. So on this solemnity of the Immaculate Conception, let us ask our Blessed Mother to pray for us, that we can follow her example and become a light in the darkness of the world that surrounds us, through the help of God's grace. And if we do this, then we, like her, can become a little star of hope, leading others to her Son, Jesus.